The thing about Amy, bila dia nak tidur, dia seorang yang anxious tau. So bila nak tidur tu, masa itulah dia mula memikirkan masalah-masalah dunia. Benda-benda yang masa siang hari tu tak ada masalah pun, tak ada isu, tak fikir pun, tiba-tiba nak tidur, mama, macam mana kalau macam ni, macam mana. So all the problems tiba-tiba datang.
Bila anak you bangun tengah malam, apa yang you buat? So memang ramai orang adalah, I give the phone, dia lapar, I bagi makanan, dia nak susu. So the answer from the trainers sangat simple actually, and this is not to trivialize what we go through lah.
Ada anak-anak yang saya tahu perlukan dosage melatonin, iaitu it is a herbal extract which also is used bila orang pergi berhijrah atau jet lag. So that can induce sleep. Tetapi to maintain the sleep, you need an environment that is sleep friendly.
Hai, salam sejahtera. Selamat datang ke episod ke-32 Kita Family Podcast. Di sini kami akan membincangkan perihal yang berkaitan dengan makna serta kepentingan hidup bermasyarakat, menghargai keunikan serta kepelbagaian sesama kita dan meraihkan masyarakat yang berbilang agama, kaum, kepercayaan, rupa dan juga keupayaan. Kita menghargai hidup secara inklusif yang mengambil kira keperluan segenap lapisan masyarakat, terutama bagi mereka yang kurang atau berkelainan upaya. Hai, nama saya Desiree. Hari ini kami bertiga sahaja di studio bersama-sama saya, Anit.
Hello. Sorry dengan suara serak.
Dan di Kota Kinabalu, Didi.
Hai, Assalamualaikum.
Hari ini kami ada satu topik yang memang is very relatable kepada ramai yang mempunyai anak-anak yang neurodivergent. Hari ini kami akan bercerita dan berbincang sedikit sebanyak tentang tidur dan bukan sahaja kepentingan tidur, tetapi permasalahan dan masalah-masalah atau isu-isu tidur yang sering dialami oleh mereka yang neurodivergent. Kepada kami, ibu bapa, penjaga atau care partners kepada the neurodivergent, secara langsung dia juga affects our sleep and our well-being, and we know for a fact sleep is very important for everyone. Even children and babies they sleep for most of their lives as babies, because that's when the growing, the healing, the generating of cells all happens when we are sleeping. So hari ni kami akan berbincang tentang our experiences, pengalaman kami bersama-sama anak-anak kami, dan juga mungkin kami juga akan berkongsi tentang kawan-kawan kami yang lain, some of their experiences sebab as we always say, if you've met one person with autism, you've only met one person with autism so memang we need to mengupas topik ini dari banyak segilah. Okay, so maybe we'll start with some of our own challenges we've had with our children and sleeping. Hari ini kami akan bermula dengan Anit.
Actually, saya bernasib baik kerana daripada time anak saya baby, saya telah memang sleep train. Jadi ada bedtime yang 8 PM, 8:30 PM, and that was non-negotiable sebab saya seorang ibu yang bekerja. So untuk saya kena ada rutin. So kalau anak saya tidak tidur pada time yang sepatutnya dan bangun sebelum saya ke kerja untuk saya mandikan, memang susah. So daripada masa era baby, memang saya ada tetapkan bedtime dan ada rutin sebelum bedtime. So jadi saya ingat sekali bila saya pergi jumpa doktor untuk dapatkan diagnosis, that was one of the questions. Does he have sleep problems? Does he sleep through the night? And I was very confident at that point to say yes, he does. Tetapi saya tahu berkenaan ramai yang lagi yang mempunyai masalah-masalah itu, kerana ada yang kalau tak ada seorang yang sebelah mereka tak boleh tidur, atau tak ada isu blanket, tak boleh tidur. Ada yang akan bangun tengah-tengah malam, and a lot of it was a real adjustment.
Hmm.
Tetapi mungkin kerana saya telah menggunakan cara untuk fix the bedtime, saya tidak mempunyai masalah itu. Tapi saya tahu ada yang memang kalau tak ada diffuse essential oil, dia tak boleh tidur. Ada budak yang kalau tak ada music, dia tak boleh tidur. And ini menjadi masalah yang sangat berat bagi pihak penjaga atau ibu bapa, kerana ia akan mess up the routine.
Yep. Betul. Menarik Anit, your experience. Sebenarnya saya pun bersama-sama Hans, tak banyaklah masalah dengan tidur. Yang ni saya akan cerita sebentar lagi. Sebelum ni kita akan pergi ke Didi terlebih dahulu to share, sebab Didi ada 2 cerita technically lah to share kan, sebab 2 orang anak, dua-dua pun berbeza. So over to you Didi.
Okay, betul. Bila ada 2 anak, ada 2 cerita berbeza. So kalau nak ikut apa yang Anik cakap tadi tu, mungkin saya separuh laki, sebab seorang tak ada masalah tidur. So separuh lah, 50% laki, and then seorang lagi, anak kedua Amy, we had a lot of challenges lah untuk kita ajar dia tidur bilik sendiri. Even untuk dia nak tidur malam tu, nak dapatkan rutin tu pun macam-macam isu, macam-macam usaha yang telah saya buat. And we manage to finally get her to sleep in her room, and it took years. Dia bukan macam sebulan je, and for me I would say it was even harder than toilet training. So that the amount of difficulties that we had to face lah. So what happened was, Amy kan, masa dia kecil, sebab daripada kecil both co-sleeping lah dengan kakak ada sekali. So the thing about Amy, bila dia nak tidur, dia seorang yang anxious tau. So bila nak tidur tu, masa itulah dia mula memikirkan masalah-masalah dunia. Benda-benda yang masa siang hari tu tak ada masalah pun, tak ada isu, tak fikir pun. Tiba-tiba nak tidur, mama, macam mana kalau macam ni, macam mana. So all the problems tiba-tiba datang. And then not just that, nak tidur malam tu, nak mengadap, dia tidur sebelah saya, dia mengadap, muka perlu bertentang, kemudian perlu dipeluk, and then perlu kan, kalau orang Melayu cakap pok-pok, you know, you pat kan, pok-pok kan, kan, kita tap dia, kita pasang zikir apa semua. So it was sangat susah. Even masa co-sleeping tu pun nak dapatkan dia tidur. Just imagine kalau masuk bilik pukul 10 tu, pukul 1 tu dia belum tentu boleh lena. Imagine bilik dah gelap, dah apa ni, dah kita, of course no electronics and everything pun dia tak boleh tidur. So bila kita try untuk separate kan, nak dia tidur bilik lain, of course kita just main macam just buat je kan, macam tak kisah, I think it's time dia kena tidur bilik sendiri. Itu yang jadi dia menjerit malam-malam. And walaupun macam masa tu kita tinggal dalam kondo je, kondominium, tapi still for some reason I tak dengar daripada bilik bila dua-dua pintu dah tutup, tapi it was really loud lah. I'm sure orang luar dah boleh dengar sebab daripada tingkap bilik dia kan. So memang satu usaha yang sangat macam rasa susah. And what I did was I went back, study balik, cari YouTube video about sleep and autism. So bila kita tengok kan, bila this one video that I watched, dia cerita apakah punca-punca susahnya autistic children nak tidur. Antaranya ialah anxiety, separation anxiety. So kita I bacalah pula macam mana nak improvekan, overcome this separation anxiety issues kan. Bayangkan depan dah tidur sebelah pun I tak boleh paling lain tau. Dia nak I tidur menghadap muka dia. Kalau dia dah tersedar, I dah pandang lain pun dia akan kejut and make sure pandang dia. Dah lah nak lena pun susah. Kemudian kalau terjaga pun dia make sure I nak kena pandang dia, everything. So what I learned was I had to give her attention, purpose, macam mana cakap, attention mana I yang pergi dekat dia. I yang ajak dia main, I yang tanya dia, not just dia yang came to me tau. I yang pergi dekat dia. So I tried to do that, and then it kind of like work, so that macam malam dia macam dah kurang dah nak macam nak attention from me. Dia macam, oh okay, boleh. And then I made it gradual, because I learned from the video where we need to do everything step by step. Cannot macam terus big change kan. So masih lagi co-sleeping at that time, she was already 9 by then. So what we did, I letak bolster kan, long pillow in between us, so that tak bersentuh. Kan sebelum ni kena peluk, so I pujuk dia, no, it's okay, no need, I tak nak peluk you, not that I didn't love you, I don't love you, tapi let's try to sleep tanpa peluk, tak ada contact lah, tak ada body contact. And after that I tak pandang muka dia, so macam it's step by step until dia dah boleh tidur without me hugging her, until dia dah boleh tidur dengan cepat, rather than macam sampai, maksudnya macam dengan co-sleeping yang tak bersentuh tu, masuk bilik boleh tidur, rather than berjam-jam baru boleh tidur kan. So we also buat juga dari segi make sure dia ada exercise session lah during the day, at least half an hour. Pasang YouTube, dia buatlah Zumba Kids ke apa ke, 1 mile walk video on YouTube, ada exercise. And at that time also I make sure dia masa tu I think MCO, masa kita nak mula train dia, kita kan tak boleh keluar, tapi I suruh dia duduk kat balcony, so dia dapat matahari jugalah, vitamin D. So many things yang kita buat, bukan sekadar satu angle je. And then also of course makan, make sure dia makan the last meal of the day kan, dinner tu jangan lewat sangat, macam kalau tak lebih pukul 9 lah, pukul 7, 8 tu dah makan dinner. And try to macam overcome, it's not just make sure that dia penat dah boleh tidur, it's also dia punya anxiety, dia punya separation anxiety, dia nak mama tu. So banyak lah. And then we also had social story, video schedule, reward chart. So macam-macam yang dibuat. And of course macam Andi cakap tadi, memang Amy kita pasang diffuser, essential oil, siap dengan bunyi apa guna, and masa pilih blanket, cadar pun kita bagi dia pilih. So macam bila dia nak move from our room to her own room kan, kita bagi dia pilih cadar, dia pilih langsir, dia pilih decoration apa dia nak, even like new soft toys yang dia nak tidur. So at that time we really like buat schedule dia punya routine tu memang agak panjang. In fact at first it will take like at least 30 to 45 minutes daripada mula nak tidur, nak masuk tidur tu, tapi we persevere lah, kita tanpa putus asa kita buat. And memang ada masa dia still terbangun malam, tapi masa tu sangat susah for me, I think because dia jadikan I sendiri pun susah nak tidur tau. Bila mula kita anxious tau, kita anxious, and memang terasa macam kalau tidur sebelah kita kan sama-sama boleh tidur, I boleh tidur, dia boleh tidur. And even until now kan, bila ada masa yang macam kita perlu berkongsi bilik, contoh macam ada tetamu datang ke apa, that she needs to let go of her room for a while, I slept very well with her. So Amy, my baby, my anak bongsu, like my teddy bear, I don't know, I think like it's the best lah. But of course untuk development dia demi dia ni kan, dia punya perkembangan, I needed to help her to achieve this level of independence, to be able to sleep on her own. And kan dulu-dulu masa kita dah ada dua orang anak perempuan, I have this thought that okay, kita ada 2 orang anak perempuan, they might as well share a room. So ingat sebab macam Afia anak sulung tak ada problem nak tidur bilik sendiri, so it be easier to convince Amy to sleep with Afia lah. At least you ada teman kan. Bila you you tak tidur dengan mama, you tidur dengan Afia. But Afia herself, she has her own preference. She wanted her own room. She wants her own privacy, her own space. So we needed to respect that. So it was more harder for us to train Amy yang takut nak tidur without me kepada tidur seorang kan, bukan dengan kakak dia, tidur seorang. So it was memang lagi susah, but we managed with lots of encouragement. Kita bagi dia words of affirmation, kita bagi dia motivasi, kita memang convince dia lah that dia boleh buat. Tapi at the same time, dalam kita nak reassure kan that this is a process, this is not easy but you can do it. Bila dia terjaga malam tu, memang pening kepala jugalah. Bila kalau tidur terganggu, dia akan macam emosi juga kan. But terpaksalah try to control our own emotion, to motivate her, to make sure that it's okay, that okay lah, this time mungkin malam ni you tak boleh nak go back to sleep in your own room, you can sleep with mama, but we can try again the next day. So that process took few years, and now after we make a big move kan from KL to Kota Kinabalu, alhamdulillah, here she has her own room and she's okay. She's enjoying her own room, her own space. She appreciate the fact that she has her own room, own bed, and tak payah share dengan kakak dia. But it's a lesson for me that even with the same diagnosis kan, that it's the struggle is not the same, the challenges are not the same, and of course kita tak sampai lagi level perlukan medication, tapi to set up the routine kan, the sleep hygiene, that one also took a lot, but it is worth the effort, because you know, when it's not just Amy enjoying her own space, I enjoy my own space as well. And I think as a couple, it improves our relationship as well. So I mean, she's 13 now, and I would say that this is worth all the struggles, all the last night, the anxiety that I had to go through kan, nak bagi dia boleh tidur ni. So now that sekarang dah tak perlulah pakai lagi the social story, but it's like when you have a sleep hygiene, you have a routine, right? So once you start the steps kan, macam Amy, okay, she has her phone, and then I say, okay, it's your bedtime, give me your phone, surrender your phone, and she knows that it's time for the ball to roll. It's time for her like go to the toilet, tukar baju, brush her teeth, and then set up her own diffuser. So it's the steps masih banyak, tapi because kita dah train kan, dia pun boleh manage sendiri. But make sure that bila kita hari-hari tu kan, it's still the same routine, and bila kita pergi travel pun it's not much a problem anymore. Kita sekarang pun dah boleh pergi hotel with connecting rooms, so the two girls sleep in separately, and boleh tidur lah. It's not like macam kalau pindah tempat tidur susah ke. So I think it was hard before,
but you did it, Didi. Yes. Saya ada satu soalan actually. Boleh tak? I ada soalan untuk Didi. So lepas Amy dah train to sleep on her own, Didi ada tak separation anxiety from her?
Oh my God, of course. You know what? We even bought what you call a baby monitor.
Oh.
at 9. He was already 9 years old. Kita pakai baby monitor. So that, because I macam tak nak dia nangis lama-lama. Tak nak dia macam, tapi ada je time yang dia dah menjerit. Dah dengar lah from the baby monitor. Tapi I tak dengar. My husband yang macam kejut. Amy nangis. So, yeah. So, of course, like, terasa macam, tidur dengan kita lagi senang. Dan memang I feel like macam senang hati lah kalau dia tidur dengan kita macam tak expect ada problem ke apa ke, tapi demi for the greater
good.
So I have something to add actually. When Nirav was 5, we moved house. So for the first 5 years of his life, he was in a different house, and then we moved house. And for 1 week, he had problems adjusting. And the first night, he actually just got up and ran. And we were like, where's he going? And he went, not my house. And so I think it was that environment. He was very used to traveling, as in, for the first 5 years. Kalau pergi rumah mak I ke Ipoh, tak ada problem. Dia akan ada rutin dia di sana. Tapi bila pindah rumah, my God, seminggu. I remember the exact 1 week. Sebab hari-hari they were not my bed. So it took him 1 week to adjust to the new house and the new bed because dia rasa lain. And I think the difference was he was sharing a double bed with his brother in the old house, and when masuk rumah baru, 2 single beds yang kita join. And then kita letak barrier lagi. So maybe there was just too many changes that we had to scale back, and then I had to co-sleep for a while and make sure that he doesn't wake up at night and run out. Because memang the first night tu we didn't expect it, because we thought it's okay. And I think that's when I learned that even when it comes to sleep training, kalau tidak gradual dan mana-mana perubahan tidak diberitahu secara social story atau preparation, memang anak-anak struggle. They struggle to adjust to a new environment.
Betul. But hearing both the stories kan, like in Anit's case, Nirav had very good sleeping habits, tetapi change of environment, he struggled for 1 week. Actually, 1 week tu dah bagus lah.
Ya, memang.
Some people struggle for months. So that's great, right? Tapi dalam case Didi, the big move and the new environment, dia macam jadi good opportunity for Amy to have that new experience from the start. It's part of the new experience. Terus dah boleh tidur dalam bilik sendiri kan. So I think the point here is memang berbeza untuk semua kanak-kanak. Not just kanak-kanak yang neurodivergent, even kanak-kanak biasa pun ada yang have masalah untuk tidur malam.
Betul.
Scared of the dark. I was a very frightened child. Kesian mak I.
No, ada yang tiba-tiba takut hantu. Walaupun I tak tahu macam mana mereka tahu ada hantu ke tak.
Yeah, so and the other thing that Didi cakap tadi pasal separation anxiety kan. So that separation anxiety also bukan saja when it comes to sleep. I teringat tadi when Didi was telling me that talking about separation anxiety, for example, bila kita nak leave our kid for the first time kan. I remember this very distinctly masa Hans was a baby and my mom told me to go out, lepas pantang, just go out and leave the baby. And she said, oh, but don't tell the baby anything, nanti he will look for you. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that, sebab nanti he will be it was instinctive to me. I said I don't want to leave without him knowing I'm leaving. Although he's a baby, I don't know level kesedaran dia masa tu, few months old, but I made it a habit from that time. Setiap kali saya keluar dari rumah atau saya pergi mana-mana, saya akan beritahu Hans. So we never had separation anxiety. Whether it was first day of school ke apa, dia boleh bye-bye dengan the mum and go to school. So I think that's also a point to note that their anxiety comes from us sometimes.
Yes.
And when we don't give them that security, then memanglah dia anxious. As simple as going out, right? why don't we've covered quite a lot dah pasal sleeping.
I think this just concludes what we said in the first few episodes, that especially when it comes to a neurodivergent child, the child feels your emotions.
Yes.
So kalau kita rasa takut, kita rasa boleh ke dia tidur malam seorang-seorang ni? Kalau cakap boleh, kalau kita confident dia boleh, kita buat je macam ni, then it passes on to the child.
Correct.
Tapi if it's more than that, I think there has to be investigations on what is the cause of them not sleeping well at night.
Yeah, betul. Exactly. But also, before we go for our break shortly, I just want to also acknowledge there are a lot of cases out there. Memang anak tak boleh tidur malam. It affects the whole household. Sometimes it affects the neighbours even, kan?
Yes.
And we just want to send you our love and our comfort and support, and to say that we hear you and we know it's challenging. So,
and for all neighbours who understand and put up with neurodivergent child and neurodivergent neighbours, thank you. Thank you for making us feel included.
Yes. So when we come back from the break, maybe we'll share some solutions or some strategies that we've heard of or that we've used ourselves. So we'll see you in a bit. Hai, selamat kembali ke episod ke-32 Kita Family Podcast. Hari ini kami membincang tentang isu-isu yang berkaitan dengan tidur or sleep challenges. Sebelum break tadi, Anit dan juga Didi telah pun berkongsi sedikit sebanyak tentang anak-anak mereka. So dalam segmen kedua, saya akan share sedikit tentang pengalaman saya bersama Hans dan juga beberapa strategi yang kami pernah cubalah, Anit, Didi, dan yang kami dengar dan dari pembacaan kami serta training yang kami attend, kan. Ada banyak tips-tips tentang tidur. So Hans sekarang dah berumur 9 tahun. Masa baby, of course lah, all babies wake up colic dan sebagainya. Tetapi masa zaman toddler, memang I used to co-sleep with him. And he went through many phases. So sebelum saya dapat tahu pasal autism dia, there were a few times, tak banyak lah, dia bangun tengah malam, dia nak main. Dan memang saya layan, dia days I layan, dia days dia atas layan. And after we found out about the autism, ada beberapa kali juga bila dia bangun tengah malam, saya bawa dia turun ke ruang tamu, letak dia dalam playpen and just on the TV so that I can sleep back, which is of course not a good habit lah, kan. Then when I started attending training dengan melalui pembacaan saya juga, dapat tahu seperti Anit share tadi, which she did instinctively, was the sleep routine, kan. So I started to implement some of the sleep routine sehingga sebenarnya Hans dapat tidur on his own. I don't need to sleep next to him, kan. And one of the things that they taught us in this training is, first thing dia tanya, bila anak you bangun tengah malam, apa yang you buat? So memang ramai orang adalah, I give the phone, dia lapar, I bagi makanan, dia nak susu. So the answer from the trainers sangat simple actually, and this is not to trivialize what we go through lah. Sleep time should be sleep time. So walaupun anak kita bangun tengah malam, as long as they are in a safe space, maknanya bilik mereka mesti selamat. Make sure if you're on a high floor, the windows are locked, kan, tak ada benda-benda yang tajam, no sharp objects, anything. The best remedy is jangan layan actually masa diorang bangun tengah malam. So and I remember this story sebab in the end, we all found it quite funny lah, right? Because one of the parents were saying, tapi anak saya lapar, dia bangun tengah malam, dia nak makan. Then dia tanyalah, you bagi makan apa? Some bagi cereal, bagi biskut, bagi roti, ada yang bagi nasi, makan tengah malam. So the trainer tanya balik, dari 8 pagi hingga 8 malam, anak you makan tak? Makan? Dia makan cukup tak? Memang cukup. So kenapa bila tengah malam dia bangun, you bagi dia makan lagi? Because nothing will happen to them if they don't eat in the middle of the night. It becomes a habit, and it becomes a habit. So itulah antara strategi yang kita boleh kongsi, especially the ones who get up in the middle of the night to eat. Kalau boleh kurangkan first, seperti macam Didi buat dengan Amy, kan. It was what you use actually, Didi, was a scaffolding or zone of proximal development method, kan. And seperti analogy rubber band yang selalu saya gunakan, kan, sikit. So make it a habit to not feed them in the middle of the night. Kan, explain to them, bagi air, janganlah terus jangan bagi apa-apa, kan. You can give some water, kan. Okay, have some water and go back to sleep. One. Secondly is you kena set the boundary. So for me and Hans, that was one of the biggest things lah. I know he's not in pain, I know he's not hungry. Dia memang on his own stop drinking milk at night and stop drinking milk completely. And ironically, the time that he stopped drinking milk was the time dia sendiri yang tak nak pakai pampers untuk tidur. That same week, he gave up milk. That same week, in the middle of the night, dia tanggalkan pampers, letak dekat tepi and dia tidur without wetting the bed. Yeah. So, establish a good strategy and a routine. And so one of the things that I did took me actually 3 days to get him to sleep on his own. So, masukkan dia ke dalam bilik, turn off the light, maybe have a good night song, good night routine, have a bit of routine. Jangan just masukkan dia dalam bilik, tutup pintu dan lari.
Yeah, tak boleh.
have a routine. And of course, I remember, and my husband pun dia masih ceritakan dekat orang lain. He's like, do you know she sat outside his room for 3 days sebab dengar dia menangis. Tapi dia menangis bukannya dengan air mata. It's just attention call, button pushing, whatever you want to call it. But after the 3rd day, dia dah biasa because he knows we co-sleep, and now we co-sleep in the same room but different beds. He knows when he wakes up in the morning, he sees me there. Kan, so the separation anxiety memang tak adalah, right, in that sense. So itulah antara strategi that has worked for us. But it comes and goes lah. Sekarang ni pun kadang-kadang memang dia bangun tengah malam, but I don't give him food obviously. Dan the rule is, if you don't see the sun at the window, tak boleh bangun. You boleh bangun dari katil untuk pergi ke tandas sahaja, minum air dan tidur balik, or duduk atas katil. Whether you sleep or not is up to you. So for me, that is like a firm boundary. Sebab my sleep is important to me too. Right? Maybe kita boleh tanya Anit, ada tak apa-apa strategi atau tips lain?
So I think let's go general. Bagi yang neurotypical juga, kalau tiada anak-anak tiada cukup tidur, mereka mempunyai masalah untuk berfungsi dengan cara optimum di sekolah ataupun mana-mana. Mereka akan jadi cranky. Ini untuk anak neurotypical ya. So kalau untuk anak neurodivergent ni, dia akan lebih exaggerated. So it becomes on a higher level
because of the sensory issues,
because of the sensory, emotional regulation, dysfunction. So sleep itself it's a precious commodity but a necessary tool. And so we cannot emphasize the need for sleep training, not just for neurodivergent children tetapi kepada anak-anak neurotypical juga. Dan dia memang correlation to the penjaga ataupun parent. So if the parent cannot function or the parent is constantly on edge, memang anak tu memang akan on a high anxiety, high alert level. That's what we're going to try to avoid. Okay, I know sometimes we stay awake at night doing other things like binge watching, but that's by choice, right? So otherwise, the sleep routine is important. Ada anak-anak yang saya tahu perlukan dosage melatonin, iaitu it is a herbal extract which also is used bila orang pergi berhijrah atau jet lag. So that can induce sleep. Tetapi to maintain the sleep, you need an environment that is sleep friendly. So katalah weighted blanket, make sure there's a blackout curtain, untuk memberikan rutin kepada anak-anak mereka. Tetapi ini adalah just cara-cara lain. Kadang-kadang kita tak ada pilihan kan. Ada kenderaan yang lalu, tiba-tiba honk, tiba-tiba apa ni. Okay, akan jadi. Tetapi kita just perlu establish that ini masa tidur, bukannya alarm bells yang perlu kita jaga.
Yes.
So kita suruh anak tu tidur balik. So that sort of routine memang memerlukan kesabaran yang sangat tinggi. So it's a high patience and high tolerance level, but trust me, you will get there with time.
Absolutely, betul. You know, the thing about noise kan, so and I'm just recalling back what I did when he was a baby, even before we knew about the autism, that has benefited us till now. So one of the things is noise.
Yes.
Kan? So masa baby, I recall my mom, of course, grandmothers are overprotective. Oh, baby sleeping, diam. I'm like, no, don't do that. He needs to get used to noise. So masa tidur siang, masa Hans masih baby lagi, saya akan sengaja buat dia tidur di ruang bawah, ruang tamu. And because I have a dog, and sometimes the dog barks, and he could sleep through it. Sebab memang I don't go like shh, shh, no. We talk in our normal voices if it's a daytime nap. Tetapi kalau malam, then we help him differentiate it even as a baby. I think I read it in a book somewhere too. So that even as babies, we help them differentiate daytime and nighttime sleep. So nighttime sleep, more silent, no light.
Yes.
Daytime sleep, there will be some light and some noise. Tapi janganlah buka TV so loudly and suruh anak you tidur. That I'm not saying to do that, but no complete silence. Kan?
But I have to say, anak bongsu dia memang boleh tidur walaupun kecoh semacam sebab
I need to learn that.
sebab daripada masa di dalam kandungan, dia memang ada abang yang asyik buat bising, lompat, buat physical activity semacam. So I remember bila mereka datang untuk jumpa dia kali pertama di hospital, dia tengah tidur lena tau. Dia orang bukakan dia punya blanket tu to like to really check whether it was her, dan dia memang buka mata sekejap lepas tu tidur balik sebab dah biasa dengan budak-budak kecoh macam ni. So physical activity as well is super important, and I notice kalau anak-anak, especially yang neurodivergent, have sufficient physical activity,
Yes.
their level of energy just goes from here to here, and then they're like, leave me alone.
Yes.
So then the skill is to make sure they eat before they sleep. Sebab kadang-kadang sebab bila level energy tu turun mendadak macam tu, mereka terus nak tidur. And kalau tak
kenyang, dia bangun sebab lapar.
memang akan bangun kan. So that is the skill.
Correct. Absolutely. So sekarang kita pergi ke Kota Kinabalu dan tanya Didi, apakah tips-tips anda?
Well, I just want to add dari segi energy level kan. I think all autistic parents needs to know about calming strategies, because dalam kita rasa anak-anak kita perlukan physical activities kan to spend their energies. Tapi kita ada satu pengalaman mana kita group of autistic parents kan bawa anak-anak kita yang autistic ni pergi trampoline park. So kita pergi dalam tengah hari macam tu. So kita bawa anak kita pergi main trampoline sampai 2-3 jam. So of course it was very tiring lah. So bila dah malam kan, kita the mothers kan still on WhatsApp. So all the mothers were like really tired tau. Dah macam penat lah because we were like kan out on a trampoline park. Tapi anak-anak semua had difficulty sleeping that night. And after a while, I learned that because, kan bila anak-anak jump on a trampoline, that is an arousing activities. They became alert. And then because malam tu, and after that, we didn't do any calming strategies for the children. So it was hard for them to tune down and nak tidur tau. So from that I realised that calming strategies are very important. So kalau macam kan siang like I said, I nak Amy buat Zumba ke apa kan through the YouTube apa semua, dia dah buat aktiviti semua. Tapi malam kena ada untuk these are for kids yang susah nak tidur lah, susah nak ni kan. Kalau yang memang masuk bilik boleh tidur then it's fine lah. But untuk anak yang dia perlukan, kita kena tune dia untuk go to a resting phase kan, boleh tidur tu. Ada kami strategies where kita baca buku cerita dulu ke, massage her body ke, buat deep pressure massage, and then at one time I also train her to do I call it wiggle exercise. I cakap okay, from daripada kepala you feel your kepala, then like you wiggle and like feel it and like rest, and then like wiggle the whole body lah. So find the calming strategies at work. Mungkin ada budak suka what you call buat burrito kan, wrap in blanket tu, macam cakap, mungkin ada yang suka weighted blanket, ada yang suka massage ke. So those things perlu ada. Kalau kita boleh tengok lah, kalau macam susah sangat anak kita nak ni, okay, ada calming strategies so that they can go from phase yang alert tu kepada phase yang ready untuk tidur. Itu satu. And then of course all these strategies that we learn, this like benda-benda yang wajib parents with autistic children tahulah, all this visual schedule, social stories. Sometimes kan I rasa ramai yang rasa social stories ni untuk anak-anak yang tak bercakap. Kalau dah bercakap, kita rasa macam kita boleh cakap je. But let me tell you, Amy is highly verbal. She can speak. Like, she has no problem answering questions and understanding what we say. But having social story, which means that it's in written form with some simple gambar je. It's not like macam proper ni gambar pun, gambar I ambil daripada internet je kan, like kartun yang kepala botak gitu. So it really help. And if you think that they only need it for a while, you actually has to follow the anak lah. Like Amy boleh bercakap, boleh apa ni kan, but the social story tu, I think we use it for almost a year, sampai dah hancur, sampai dah macam dah kena air lah apa, you know, the print pun dah kembang. So I reprinted and barulah terfikir, letak dalam clear folder, barulah dia waterproof kan.
Laminate.
Laminate ke kan. So she would ask for it every night before sleep, and bila dia baca tu kan, dia go through the social story tu, I could see it really comfort her. And macam dia macam, this is the flow, I can see the flow, and this is what going to happen when I sleep. Because kan dalam social story tu kita ada cakap macam, kalau terjaga pun nak buat apa kat semua kan. So social story, visual schedule, reward. Tapi reward pun, reward is good, but janganlah macam ada punishment pula. Kalau you bangun tengah malam, I take away something kan, I take away your apa ni, tak adalah. Reward is a good reinforcement, but make sure that it can motivate lah, rather than dia frust kan. Kalau kalau tak malam terjaga, mama cakap nanti tak dapat ni. So we try to balance that as well. And of course we have to look on the psychology part as well. Like I said, Amy had separation anxiety, so we also address that. And lots of words of encouragement. Kita yakinkan dia lah that dia boleh buat. Tapi kalau dia tak boleh buat pun, tak adalah. We tried not to marah lah. Of course, I'm sure there were times that I became upset because because the frontal lobe of my brain myself pun tak berfungsi bila terkejut tengah-tengah malam kan. So I think we had to be sabar, and these things tu lah, kalau macam when you listen to other people experience kan, there are people who facing a greater struggle lah, yang langsung tak boleh tidur, yang terus siang malam pun terbalik kan. So always like count your blessing and look at the bigger picture lah, like what's the goal. And then of course you have to know the importance of sleep, sebab kalau malam yang tak tidur tu, we know that the next day would not be a good day. And there were times that I even had to took Amy I tak hantar Amy pergi sekolah, because knowing that she didn't sleep well the night before, and I tahu it would not be a good outcome lah if she go to school that particular day. So of course we have untuk anak-anak yang faham, we also have to tell them the importance of sleep. Because macam Amy ni, I tak tahu lah, dia macam, even sampai sekarang pun kadang-kadang macam dah seronok main game ke apa, she would say, I don't want to sleep, I want to sleep next week. But actually she knows, kita dah cakap banyak kali, you need to sleep every day. Tapi sekarang ni bila dia dah bising-bising macam tu pun, I didn't have to remind her. That after a while she would say, I need sleep anyway, I know I need sleep. So you might have to repeat this banyak kali, but don't be tired lah. Like macam dia kadang-kadang kan because of the emotional regulation, dia akan rasa marah, dia upset. Tapi we just keep ajar je lah. Like kalau dia cakap benda-benda yang menyakitkan hati tu, it's don't take it personal lah.
Sometimes in the moment kan termarah, terjerit. I know I'm guilty of that.
No, when I want to say this sebab masa COVID tu, masa lockdown, saya tahu ramai anak neurodivergent dan saya dengar daripada kawan-kawan sendiri yang tiba-tiba yang dulu boleh ada sleep routine, tiba-tiba tunggang terbalik sebab rutin duduk di rumah itu bukan rutin yang biasa.
Yes, correct.
And then pada masa
sebab
itu
tak keluar rumah langsung kan.
Yes. And then at that time as well, benda-benda kecil, sensory integration go haywire as well, that when they used to hear thunder and lightning, they would suddenly have those emotional moments, hide under the table, mula menggigil sampai kena ada weighted blankets to calm them down, and using the rubbing strategies kat belakang spine, using all the different textures, and giving them fidget cubes or fidget balls to maintain their level of anxiety. And ini memang menjadi satu masalah yang sangat besar pada masa lockdown dulu. Sebab budak-budak yang memang dah train pun regressed, and the training had to be redone.
Yes.
And I think sebagai parent anak yang neurodivergent, we always have to anticipate there can be an event that can trigger a retraining. Yep. And tetapi keep it going.
Yes, exactly. So our journeys basically memang a lot of trial and error, kan? And there are times, in fact recently in one of my support groups pun, ada ramai yang share anak mereka pun dah dewasa, 20-an dan dah masuk 30 tahun, still having sleep issues. Tetapi I really admire these parents sebab they show up for these support groups to learn from others.
Yes.
Because what worked for me maybe for one day may work for someone else for the rest of their life.
Exactly.
So it's important to learn from each other, kan? And to share what we know. And I think one last tip I want to share before we wrap up is which really worked for us when Hans was really little, and I did it with the clearance from his developmental PEDS, was to completely cut out his daytime sleeps. And that made a huge difference, and it was a very unpopular choice amongst a lot of parents. When I said it, they're like, "You don't let your 2-year-old sleep in the afternoon?" I said, "No, I don't." And the reason why I was brave enough to do it is because without that afternoon nap, dia boleh tidur dari 8 malam sehingga 7 pagi tanpa bangun langsung. And the doctor said that is more than enough sleep. It will not impede his development. So it took us about 1 week to completely cut off the daytime nap. Tetapi we did it over a period of 3 months. So kurangkan dulu waktu tidur. So from like 1 hour, then 45 minutes, then 30 minutes, then 15 minutes, and then just to lie down. So it took a while. But when we completely cut out the daytime nap, memanglah susah, dia mengantuk, kena main dengan dia and whatnot, right? But it worked because then he sleeps through the night, right? So
yeah, and I know of many neurodivergent adults yang memang kena tidur by a certain time every night. It's bedtime, and and that's okay too.
I want that.
That's good discipline.
I want a bedtime as well. Yeah. But at a certain time, that's really must sleep. Kan? So on that note, I think we are ready to wrap up our episode today. Banyak benda pun kami telah kupas hari ini. Kami telah share pengalaman kami sendiri bersama anak-anak dan juga beberapa tips dan strategi untuk mengatasi atau menangani isu-isu tidur anak-anak kami. Remember, every child is different. It may, what we works for our kid may not work for yours. What has worked for your kid, please share with us in the comments. And I would like to emphasize to tolong share dalam komen kali ni, sebab bagilah orang lain tengok apa yang memang sesuai untuk anak anda, what has worked for you and your child, so that we can learn from each other. We, the KFM moms, also want to learn from all of you. So jangan lupa komen, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are also on Spotify. Follow and like us on TikTok, Instagram and Facebook. And with that, that's it from us from Kita Family Podcast episode 32. See you again. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.